They have got some contests for you, whether that's NBA, MLB, NFL, PGA. No more NBA, by the way. That's sad for right now, but we killed NBA on this show. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You should go play at No House Advantage. Use that promo code AWESEMO and get a $20 instant match deposit bonus on your first sign up. You don't have to worry about fantasy points. This is going to be a player prop site. You download the app in the App Store or just go to the website. Win big with player props today at No House Advantage. Ben, our basketball season is over, which is a shame for the viewers of this video because you and I, particularly you, killed the basketball picks.
We did. We had a good run there. Wish we got to it sooner, but you know what? There will be plenty more basketball in this show's future. Listen, we used the tools. I honestly can say that. Odd Chopper, the tools that Alex and the whole team provide here, they can give you an edge, not just in DFS, but in betting. And we were fortunate to get on a roll there with series. I don't know. I kind of want to ask you and make a statement. You kind of get a ebb and flow for what's going on. And when the lines are kind of like run back in a way, you can take advantage of some outliers from the previous game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did a really good job of that. Just to sum it all up, you ended up being 8.7 strips of bacon to the good. I was 3.6 strips of bacon to the good. Would have been a little bit closer to you if I didn't fully bagel yesterday, but that's neither here nor there. Either way, just over the time that we were doing the breakfast menu for NBA bets, a crisp 12.3 strips of bacon to the good.
That's a lot of bacon,
good, man. It is a lot of bacon. We're gonna have heart disease and stuff because of it. It's too much whatever. I don't know. I'd rather just eat the bacon. I'm good.
I just had bacon. I just ate your strips of bacon. I just had a couple strips, so now I'm taking that off your units.
That's fair.
Win some, you lose some. But yeah, you know what? Now it's interesting because we were talking a little before the show. You know, basketball ends. We've got some new sports here. And to me, it's a mindset thing. Like, my expectations for some of these other sports are going to be to grind it out. It's not like they're not my best sports and they never will be. But that doesn't mean you can't get an edge here or there, take advantage of some of these lines. And that's what we're going to try to do here.
Absolutely. So let's dive in right now. Hey, you cleaned your plate yesterday, so it's up to you. Would you like to go first or second?
I'm going to sit back. This is not NBA. This is MLB. I'm going to sit back and let you set the tone and then piggyback off hopefully some hot fire picks from you.
Alrighty. So we're going to kick this off. One strip of bacon on the Houston Astros -1.5 runs at -118. The Indians are 18th in weighted runs created plus against righties. They are 28th in on-base percentage. So that creates a high variance scenario for me where they have to rely on power in order to get their runs because they simply cannot get on base against righties. Lance McCullers has a .110 expected ISO against righties, .142 expected ISO against lefties. So it's not as if he's giving up all that much power to begin with. If you can't get on and you can't really hit for power, you're probably not scoring a lot of runs. And Eli Morgan, not very good. Astros' second best offense in the league against righties, 118 weighted runs created plus. Astros in a rout here, 1.5 runs, not a problem at all.
I looked at the Astros and I didn't want to let it run and a half. I didn't want to lay, -220 to win the game, even though I think that's an interesting, we're not going to get into this right now, a parlay piece if you wanted to do something like that. So I went to another team that, to me, I thought they would be closer to the Astros in terms of where that money line sat, and it's the Chicago White Sox. They're only -140 at home against the Twins. And the simple situation, I have them amongst the best teams in the AL. I look at the Twins, they're atrocious on the road. It's a divisional matchup. We've seen this time and time again. The Twins 18-30 on the road. White Sox 35-16 at home. They've won 2 straight. I think they make it 3 straight. Pineda versus Cease, I don't really see anything that stands out. I was just, again, this is a line that I think -140 is towards the floor of what you're going to get. I don't think this would be around by first pitch. So I'm just going to ride with a clearly better team at home, kind of like the Astros, but not laying nearly as much juice.
Interesting play you have there. Number 2 for me, final pick for the breakfast menu for today. One strip of bacon on the Chicago White Sox, -1.5 runs at +130. White Sox 4th in baseball in weighted runs created plus against righties, 2nd in on-base percentage, middle of the pack in the ISO. But that's fine because Michael Pineda is going to make up for it. a 170 expected ISO against both hands over the past 2 years. He's given up power in bunches, and if the White Sox can get a ton of people on base, you know what happens when you have a little bit of power coming. And Dylan Cease has been amazing so far this year. 30% K rate. He cut the walk rate to 10%. So I'm getting the significantly better pitcher who's taken a step forward. He's always had the pedigree. And I'm taking...
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Monkey Knife Fight Strategy Show, presented by One Monkey Knife Fight. Of course, I'm sitting alongside my buddy, my pal, Greg Ehrenberg. Greg, how you doing today, my dude?
Doing pretty good overall. I would have preferred had the Suns won last night, but whatever, that is what it is. Other than that, though, I just realized that the Rockies lineup had come out for the later game, and I was like, oh, my lineups definitely need to be updated because there's some players in there that I would prefer to not be in there. But the good thing is about on Monkey Knife Fight, we don't have to worry about any lineups. Don't have to worry about swapping people in or out. So that is the benefit of playing there.
Yeah, it's Samuel Hillard and Dom Nunez there in the catcher spot. That 7-8 hole. Pretty interesting thing to be looking at here for Colorado. That's an interesting game going on in the front half of it, 93 degrees. If you want to jump in on that, if you still have time when you get this video, of course, if you're watching us live, you certainly do. Go ahead and take advantage of playing over there. Might be some good fantasy points that you can play on a couple batters here and there, whether that's on the one side going up against Austin Gomber, Mitch Haniger, Ty France. I don't mind putting those two together in like a fantasy challenge type format. But of course, we're here to talk about the main games. We're here to talk about the main slate. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can know when all of the things here at Awesemo are going live. Of course, we're presented today by Monkey Knife Fight, and their player props-based contests are super easy to play, and they don't require the same amount of time commitment that the other DFS sites do in order to be competitive. That's because at Monkey Knife Fight, you're able to play MLB, NBA, UFC, PGA, esports, soccer, and NFL, which is coming just around the corner. And Monkey Knife Fight will have it all. So to get started, head to monkeyknifefight.com, choose which game type you want to play, your contest type, and your buy-in. And even better, Monkey Knife Fight has an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you sign up with the promo code AWESEMO. It's as easy as that. That is how you stay profitable and you sustain income in this game so that we can give you the plays that we really like, give you the plays that we think can be profitable, but getting free money is never a bad thing. You ready to get this show on the road, my dude?
Let's roll.
Let's roll. So we're going to go to the main slates. I just want to start off with a couple of easy ones. I think that looking at the more or less game type for the main games, we have one Robbie Ray and Lance McCullers. They are your two most expensive pitchers around DFS sites this evening. But on Monkey Knife Fight, we don't have to worry about ownership. We don't have to worry about anything other than what we think their pitching strikeouts are going to be. So Robbie Ray, 8.5 strikeouts going up against this Boston Red Sox team. What are you kind of thinking for Robbie Ray and Lance McCullers in these spots?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've liked Robbie Ray quite a bit for fantasy. Well, actually, I've been about even with the field of him for fantasy purposes as of late. I haven't been, like crazy over underweight to field him or anything, but still that's led to a lot of slates where we've kind of had to roster Robbie Ray, just given that he's been popular. But, Robbie Ray for today, he's one of the better pitchers going today, but that's a whole lot of strikeouts to expect against a really tough Boston Red Sox offense. So starting with one of them, I lean pretty heavily towards the under. It's just hard to think that more often than not that he's going to get to 9 strikeouts. If you look at the projections that we have up on the site today, we have Robbie Ray hitting under 8.5 strikeouts 66% of the time. So, with that in mind, I have to lean towards the under here. I think that 9+ strikeouts against the Red Sox, not saying it's impossible for Robbie Ray to do, and he has been much improved this year compared to some other recent years, but Red Sox offense is good enough. And, I think it's a hard out for him. So been good as of late. He has a 32% K rate, but give me the under.
I'm right there with you. We're looking at this entire Boston team and they can do a lot of damage, and it's weird to talk about that in context of strikeouts, but it does matter so much. The times that he's going to get blown up and not be able to go deep enough into a game, that can limit your strikeout upside just as much as just simply not getting batters and getting the swings and misses. I think Robbie Ray is fully capable of that. We all know that he can give up some hard contact from time to time, though, as well. This is a very potent team. So I'm with you, though. I think less than 8.5 is a great number to be looking at. This one, I'm having a little back and forth. I think less than 7.5. Again, Lance McCullers has been really, really exceptional here of late as well. Coming off of back-to-back 7-inning games, 107 pitches in 2 of his last 3, getting a big workload, 2.8 ERA, 1.18 WHIP. As far as strikeouts go, I mean, this Cleveland matchup seems like a pretty darn good one for a righty. Got some great breaking stuff in Lance McCullers' arms for sure, but 7.5 is another large number to be looking at in Cleveland for the season. Just looking at their K rate here up against right-handed pitching, it's middle of the road, 23.6%. They definitely have the guys, 189 ISO that can make that a little bit problematic. That is, I guess that's Boston's there specifically. But yes, Cleveland as well, 170 ISO. Again, middle of the pack, 12th in MLB. They can do some damage as well. But how do you feel about Lance McCullers in this spot?
Yeah, so while it is a pretty high strikeout total, still the Cleveland offense has been pretty weak this year relative to expectations. It's also a very top-heavy offense. And then something else with McCullers also is, so he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. And earlier in the year, he kind of struggled a little bit with his results. His velocity's been up as of late, and his results have gotten better also. So you said that he's pitched better as of late. And, if you look at his last 4 starts, 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, when you also factor in the increase in velocity, I think we just have a guy who's further removed from a pretty significant elbow injury. And he's a guy who was one of the better pitchers in baseball prior to getting hurt. It just kind of makes sense to me that with him getting better during the year, it's not like a hot stretch. It's not anything that's a fluke. It's just a factor of, and by the way, his last couple of starts in Chicago and against Oakland, so 2, pretty tough matchups. The last time he allowed more than 2 runs in a start, we have to go back to May 22nd. I'm on Lance McCullers here and on him going forward. I think that he's regaining the form that he had prior to getting injured.
All right. Well, I was I could be talked into either direction. He's been exceptional. There is no question about it. Again, I like seeing the workload that exists here for him and this Cleveland lineup. Yesterday, it didn't have J-Ram. I expect him to be back in it here today. So Franmil Reyes and him, those are the 2 you're always kind of scared of in this lineup. Harold Ramirez hits the ball hard, but only a 420 expecting slugging. So, I mean, in terms of damage that can be done to him here, there's still going to be Ks available in that lineup for sure. Bradley Zimmer, 35% strikeout rate here in this early season, or early at bats for him, 68 batted balls in play. Bobby Bradley, 34.3%. Roberto Perez expected to be catcher, 32.7%. Those are some massive numbers. So I definitely can be talked into more than 7.5 as well for McCullers. Let's jump on over to the home run blast. It is no longer the Derby. It is the home run blast of these main games. We are trying to find some boppers in this spot. And now if you go over to the MLB player props tool, we don't just have strikeouts. We have MLB player prop home runs. And again, one of the nice things is we don't have to worry about what the odds are on the one side. We don't have to worry about what sports books around the industry have for whatever the juice would be for it. We can simply pick our 3 favorite home run plays of the day. I've kind of cornered 3 guys. I'll talk about one specifically, so maybe I'm not cornering the market if you want to pick one of them. But I'm going Cruz, Gallo, and then Yordan Alvarez, just a guy that I continually play. 51.2% hard hit percentage on the season. Yordan Alvarez gets the ball up in the air, 12.9 degree launch angle, 528 expected slugging. just from the left side of the plate, going up against Eli Morgan, who has a 547 expected slugging and a launch angle he's giving up of 22.1 degrees. Fly ball pitcher, not boding well for the likes of Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez in this Houston lineup today. So I want to be bullish on Houston bats. How do you feel? Who are your 3 home run picks for the day?
Well, so leaning on our home run prop tool, which all right, it looks like all the players aren't in this right now. So that's going to make it a little hard to pick out all of them. But, still going to look at some of the overall teams, I think, to target to start with and just see which teams are overall in the best spot. I think the weakest pitchers on the mound for today's slate, I don't know that I really want to target too many of the Texas bats, even though it's a favorable matchup for them. But on the mound for the Yankees tonight is Asher Wojciechowski, who, just to show what kind of dire straits the Yankees are in from an injury perspective, they have a former Orioles pitcher who's now going to be in the rotation, which is always a little bit of an issue. So I'm actually the number one team I want to focus on is going to be the Philadelphia Phillies. So the first bat that sticks out to me is Bryce Harper. I just think this spot against Asher Wojciechowski is really favorable for Philadelphia. It's a team that for DFS purposes, I'm going to want to get to tonight. I think that we just have to consider that, look, the Orioles have the worst pitching in baseball. Here's somebody who they have Matt Harvey in the rotation right now. They have Jorge Lopez. They've had, Keegan Aiken, although he got scratched today. So just a bunch of terrible starting pitchers. This is somebody who they had to cut out of the rotation, who's now finding himself into the Yankees starting rotation because of injuries that they've suffered. So my overall favorite offensive target is going to be the Philadelphia Phillies, and that has to start with Bryce Harper.
I like it. We can also put Vladimir Guerrero Jr. into any conversation that you want about hitting long balls, going up against Garrett Richards here tonight as well. Again, we don't have to worry about ownership. That is a beautiful thing that you have over at Monkey Knife Fight available to you, not worrying about what other people are doing. You get to simply play the best plays. I think that those 5 that we brought up, adding Harper to the mix, I just absolutely love going to all of them. Definitely some of the highest home run totals here on the season. They just hit the ball the hardest. They're in the best spots. Not a single one of them facing anybody worth a damn. 5.95 career ERA for Asher Wojciechowski. That is not ideal to be looking at for sure. Moving ourselves along to some of the other plays that you can have. Let's go to the fantasy challenge. So if we're going to pick out 2 of those Philadelphia Phillies, so we really like Bryce Harper, let's kind of click him in as a guy. Is there somebody that might correlate well with him for a fantasy challenge game type where you're at least sharing a couple of the stats that you're going to be accumulating in that game type? Is there somebody that you really want to be playing alongside him from Philly?
Yeah. So from the Phillies, JT Realmuto, he has been not quite the year that we normally would have expected from him. But still, if we look at some of the other batters that are available for Philly, I still think that he's somebody who we're going to want to target here. Like we said before, it is a good spot for him. I wouldn't put Realmuto into the home run blast type challenge, just because I don't think he's that kind of power hitter. But to circle back on one guy, I'm not sure if he's available in the fantasy challenge. Oh, yeah, here he is. Joey Gallo
Yes.
as another one-off. So before, when I was just thinking about some of the worst pitchers on the slate and guys that I want to target against, Matt Manning is on the mound for the Detroit Tigers today. He's really struggled to start his MLB career, and it's hard for me to say, confidently that I want to load up on Rangers bats today. But still, Matt Manning, 6.95 ERA, 6.08 expected ERA. If I had to single out the one Rangers hitter that I think has the most upside today and somebody who I'd be willing to play in the fantasy challenge and the home run blast, I think Joey Gallo would be the bat that makes the most sense there.
Really like that as well. No problem targeting Manning. No problem going that direction. I've got one that I kind of want to bring up as well, because I think if you go to our MLB player props tool, again, the strikeout props does such a great job of giving you a overall perspective of where you can be looking on the slate, which arms you should be targeting. There's a question that I have about Julio Urias. So Tyler, we got Tyler behind the glass here today. Can you head over to the Los Angeles Dodgers and San Francisco game? So if you're looking for a little action on the late night hammer, which I definitely always am, especially on nights like we had on Friday or Monday where the slate seemed like it was over in 20 minutes, you can still get in the action on Monkey Knife Fight, throw in a couple of plays on props here. I think Julio Urias and Logan Webb both set up as guys we might be able to find some value at. So I think the over on Julio Urias going up against San Francisco seems like it would be a good spot to be going to, but for sure. So if you're getting 3x on that, I think just from a profitability standpoint, I really think that our props tool is very high on shorting Logan Webb. 20% expected ROI, second best play to be shorting his 4.5 prop. So I think less than 4.5 there. Do you have any kind of pull for Julio Urias and Logan Webb here in this spot?
Yeah, I like the more than strikeouts for Urias, 26.8% K rate so far this year. And, with the San Francisco Giants, they had a great first half of the season. Even in the second half, they started, reasonably well. But I think there's a team that's going to regress a little bit going forward. I don't totally buy into the success. And I think this is going to be a below 500 team in the second half of the season. So I think that Urias, this strikeout number for him, it's pretty low given some of the success we've seen from him this year. Like I said, more or less 5.5 strikeouts. And Urias for the year, 27% K rate. I'm going to go through his individual game log and look at some of his strikeout totals. It's been a little bit up and down as of late. His last 4 starts, 12 strikeouts, 3, 9, 3. The patterns are kind of stupid. You just say, that means he's going to have a bunch of strikeouts today. But still, we've seen pretty significant strikeout upside from him. And then, who knows, maybe he's a little bit fatigued heading into the All-Star break or something like that. But Urias going forward, I think he should be pretty successful, and he's shown good strikeout stuff this year. Overall for the year, the numbers for Urias, 3.78 ERA, 3.87 expected ERA. So I'll give me more than 5.5 for him.
I love that call. And then again, our MLB player props tool is all over Logan Webb, going less than 4.5 here in this spot. Do you agree with that? Especially with the Dodgers, this lineup is starting to come back to life. You saw Chris Taylor go completely nuts. I ended up throwing him out on the MLB Live before lock call as my home run call. He hits 2 of them. That made me feel very smart there once Mookie Betts was out of the lineup and you ended up getting him leading off for the Dodgers. That worked out way better than you could have ever hoped for. But this entire lineup, if you get Mookie Betts back in there, where is Logan Webb going to find 4.5 here? And he's been a decent enough pitcher here on the season. I don't want to say that he's terrible by any means, but I think 3x that you're getting here, this Dodgers team doesn't strike out a whole lot here. 25.4% K percentage for Logan Webb on the season, a pretty decent enough pitcher. But what do you think about Logan Webb here?
Yeah, so I agree. I don't think Logan Webb is terrible by any means, but it's a really tough matchup. And here are his last 2 starts since coming off the injured list. He threw 45 pitches and 60 pitches. So I think we're going to see his pitch count bump up a little bit, but it's really hard to expect that many strikeouts from a guy who, even so, I think there's a good chance he only pitches 4 or 5 innings today. It's also a tough matchup against the Dodgers. So just because of potential pitch count restrictions, give me the under here on Logan Webb. Numbers this year, solid 3.54 ERA, 3.45 expected ERA, 25.4% K rate. More than anything, it's just to play on a guy who looks like he's a little bit restricted right now.
I found a really good one here, Tyler. Let's go back to the main games. Let's go to rapid fire. So again, you have all these different type of game types. You have more or less. So you're able to simply play more or less of strikeout props, of player props, of everything else. Rapid fire, the first 5x that you're seeing there on the board, rapid fire prize 5x is going to be Robbie Ray versus Lance McCullers. Lance McCullers is getting plus 1.5 pitching strikeouts. I think we've both, look, we're not saying that Robbie Ray 8.5 was kind of a different number, but if we're going to go more than 7.5 for Lance McCullers and less on 8.5 for Robbie Ray, you got to think that getting 1.5 on the McCullers side is a great way to go, Greg. No?
Yeah, I definitely agree on more than for Lance McCullers. Such an easier matchup from going up against the Indians than what Robbie Ray has pitching against the Red Sox. And then looking at the next one, that's another one I feel pretty comfortable with. Just JT Realmuto versus Bryce Harper for total bases, plus 0.5 total bases going to Realmuto, but I don't think that's a wide enough spread. I feel pretty strongly about the first 2. I like Lance McCullers. I like Bryce Harper. The third one's a little bit dicier, but definitely for the first couple, I feel pretty confident who I prefer.
Yeah, so you have 5x, so you can turn something that's a coin flip, which would be 2-1 or whatever it would be. And if you're going to get a favorite like you are from McCullers and Harper, which I'm definitely in agreement on both of those plays with you, the DD and Rhys Hoskins side, just give me Rhys Hoskins getting the plus 0.5 runs plus RBIs. Hits a little bit higher in the order. I think that'll probably help him here as well. You get some of the better batters possibly just to get on base here, and he's getting the extra little 0.5 bump. So I'll probably side with Rhys Hoskins if I had to pick a side, but I don't think it's too far off. So if you want to flip a coin on that other one, I think that's a pretty advantageous way to go. So are there any other pitchers, Greg? Let me just kind of open it up to you. We've gone through a number of plays. I think that we found some pretty good profitability here around the industry, around Monkey Knife Fights specifically today, talking about player props. But is there any player specifically we haven't touched on, or a pitcher that you're really interested in either being bullish on or shorting today?
Yeah, so let's go to the Cardinals versus Cubs game. I'm just kind of curious to see what we have here for Adam Wainwright, because I'm not sure what the Cubs lineup is going to look like today. Have we seen any updated news on Chris Bryant?
No, it does not have him in the projected lineup, though, on a number of sites.
So what happened with Chris Bryant yesterday is he got taken out of the game in the middle of the game, which there was no injury involved, though. So it seems like there's a trade in the works. We know that Chris Bryant's on the trade block. We also saw the Cubs trade away Jock Peterson recently. So I don't know exactly what this Cubs lineup is going to look like, but this is a team that looks like they're going to be starting to sell off players and potentially could be missing a bunch of guys either in the lineup tonight or just going forward. We could see Anthony Rizzo traded, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez. This could be a really weak lineup going forward. And if this is a lineup that's really compromised and is playing a lot of weaker guys than we're used to seeing from them, then I think Adam Wainwright for more than 5.5 strikeouts really makes sense. It's speculative because we don't have that lineup yet, but something to keep an eye on. The game doesn't start for 7 hours, but there's a chance the Cubs are playing a bunch of backups today.
And it looks like we're citing over at Awesome. I mean, there's some 4.5s that kind of exist around the industry today. Finding a 3.5 here on Kyle Hendricks, that makes it really interesting. I don't know where I would go with that one specifically. I love the Adam Wainwright call. You've got that July 31st trade deadline that is looming. Number of Cubs are going to get moved. It's just kind of a fact of what's going to happen. I think St. Louis, they should probably be selling off too. Their records aren't that far apart, only about a game or two, and they are way back in the NL for any of those wild card spots. But what are you thinking about 3.5 pitching strikeouts for Kyle Hendricks today?
I'm so anti Kyle Hendricks. I've stacked against him.
I hate the guy.
I've stacked against him so much this year, but 3.5 strikeouts, that's such a low number that as much as I am anti Kyle Hendricks, I'm just pulling up his numbers for the season right now.
You're pro money is what you are.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's 3.65 ERA, and he's very lucky to have that 4.76 expected ERA, 4.76 FIP. Strikeout rate is a career low 17.9%. So obviously all that's very low, but still it's a National League game. He's going to be facing the pitcher, 2, potentially 3 times. So I'm just going to say that's about a fair number. It's hard for me to confidently ever pick under 3.5 strikeouts for somebody.
That's probably correct. 3.5 is just such a low number here. Let's do the homer portion of the program here for me as well. As a Minnesota Twins fan, I want you to talk me through this a little bit because Dylan Cease is a guy that I have a ton of interest in for DFS purposes. I have a ton of interest in possibly being bullish on his 6.5 strikeouts here on Monkey Knife Fight up against the Minnesota Twins. They can definitely do some damage. I mean, their faults are definitely that of the starting pitching. Their lineup now with Josh Donaldson back is even more potent. So a lot of guys who can hit the ball really, really hard. But let's go over to the more or less there as well. Dylan Cease, 6.5 pitching strikeouts for him, right around a 30% strikeout rate on the season, 30% on the number, in fact, 36.4% hard hit percentage. He's given up 5 home runs in his last 4 games, but definitely somebody who can limit some of the damage in this spot. I think if he goes deep enough, give me more than 6.5 strikeouts. What do you think about Dylan Cease today?
Yeah, totally agree. He has at least 6 strikeouts in 5 consecutive starts. And in those starts, 10 strikeouts, 6, 8, 7, 7. Then you go farther back for the season. I mean, he's been more than 6.5 in almost all of his outings so far this year. So given his strikeout stuff, and even though his actual real life numbers, he's been good, but not great this year. He's made significant strides, but still, 4.15 ERA, 3.98 expected ERA. It's not like he's an ace or anything like that by any means, but he's become a top end fantasy pitcher just because of his ability to strike guys out. You referenced it right there, the 30% K rate. And given how consistently he's striking out 7+ hitters in games, I think that number should probably be at like 7.5.
And to complement them together, we got to play both of them. So Michael Pineda, give me less than 4.5 here in this spot as well. Not a pitcher that's been impressing me. His time in New York was short, not that short. I mean, he was definitely successful at times there. Since coming to Minnesota, he had some moments, ends up coming back here this season, not having many moments whatsoever, giving up a bunch of hard contact, only a 21.5% K percentage on the season. And he faced this White Sox matchup 2 weeks ago to the date. He ended up giving up 12 hits, 5 earned, had 4 Ks in that spot, but he has failed to adjust. It looks as though he might be one of the guys that would be affected. You're seeing some decent enough pitchers or average pitchers that having little fall off from the sticky stuff situation. But Michael Pineda, not a very good pitcher to begin with, might be falling off a cliff here. Hasn't eclipsed this 4.5 number in his last 4 outings, dating back to June 1st, it would be. What do you think about 4.5 for Michael Pineda?
Give me the less than on him. And it's more than just some concerns with spin rate and whatnot. Even going back to the start of the year, he's been a guy who I think a lot of his performances have been fluky. So he has the 4.11 ERA, but a 5.16 expected ERA. He's just a guy who's really benefited from some good luck. He is a career low 286 BABIP. He gives up a lot of hard contact. And then also it's just the velocity is way down. So 91.1 average fastball velocity. This is him over the last few years. And now keep in mind also, Michael Pineda got suspended for sticky substance. That was 2016, 2017. So even when they weren't even cracking down on it, he got in trouble.
They were cracking down on him. Yeah.
So he's gotten suspended for that. He's gotten suspended for PEDs. He's had an elbow injury. He's had a shoulder injury. So all kinds of different injuries for him, all other kinds of violations and other issues that he's also had. And here's the velocity numbers for Michael Pineda since 2016. 94.7 miles per hour, 93.9, 92.6, 92.1, and now this year down to 91.1. So looking at a guy who's had a lot of injuries rack up. He's now 32 years old. Velocity's on the decline. I just don't think the arm talent's there anymore. So he's somebody who I think it makes sense to just kind of target against.
All righty. Tyler, let's get weird here to round it all out. It is 10:55 out here on the West Coast. On the East Coast, it is 250. 155. What my math? It's great. I'm helping people with numbers and going through everything here. I want to go over to the more or less game type here. There are a bunch of pitchers that we can look at on the board of the main games. We could go to the more or less game type and look at 5 out of 5. We've talked about Robbie Ray, less than 8.5 strikeouts there. Pitching outs, I guess that might be a little bit more difficult. If you go to the more or less 110x, I'm going to tell you, it is not a very likely scenario where you're going to be being able to convert on something like this. But for just the heck of it, let's say you have $2 in your account and you want to turn that into 220. Or if you want to take advantage of that promo code using promo code AWESEMO to get $100 free match deposit bonus, you could turn $100 into $11,000. We had Mr. Diablo earlier say that he needs to win $1,000. How about winning $10,000 today? So Robbie Ray, less than 8.5. Lance McCullers, more than 7.5. Dylan Cease, more than 6.5. Adam Wainwright, more than 5.5. Michael Pineda, less than 4.5. Kyle Hendricks, more than 3.5. We have 2 other pitchers we need to round it out with, Greg. The burden is on you to convert on Garrett Richards and Eli Morgan. What are we going to do with their ridiculously low 3.5 pitching strikeout props? Garrett Richards starting up against Toronto today.
Let me look at Garrett. So Garrett Richards has obviously been awful lately, and he's somebody also who just every time he goes out, right, he's throwing different pitches. He's trying different things with his grips, trying different off-speed pitches. The strikeout number's been terrible this year. It's funny. I was going to say 3.5 is such a low number, but here are the strikeout numbers over the last handful of starts for Richards. 3.30, 3.24. Really tough matchup against the Blue Jays. I don't feel comfortable with it because the number's so low, but I'm still going to side with less than 3.5.
All righty. And to round it all out, Eli Morgan going up against this Houston Astros team, which just does not strike out whatsoever. 19.9% strikeout rate up against right-handed pitching in the season. That is not just the best in the big leagues. It's the best in the big leagues by a margin of about 1.5%. 118 WRC plus up against that's best in the big leagues as well against right-handed pitching. What do we think about Eli Morgan and his prospects in this spot to round it out?
It's also it's a low number for sure, except the numbers from him have been so awful. 7.86 ERA, 6.12 expected ERA. He is generating some strikeouts this year, 23.5%. I'm just not sure. He's getting hit so hard. I'm not sure he's going to be able to stay in the game long enough to really rack up strikeouts. So once again, it's a low enough number that I think it's probably about fair. But if I had to stick with one side, I'm going to go with the less than, but not with a ton of confidence.
All righty. Well, we've covered pretty much every single pitcher for the most part on the evening slate of games on the main slates that you'll be playing for your DFS pitchers. But I think we've targeted a number of spots that you can definitely be looking to. Bullish, yay on Lance McCullers and Dylan Cease and Adam Wainwright. No on just about any of these lower prop ends for the back end of these pitchers. I really like going to the more or less game types where you can 3X. I think that there's some good matchups that exist on the board here, but I think that's going to do it for today. Greg, do you have any final word for the people?
No, just because getting brought up in the YouTube chat, we do have the MLB deeper dive today with MLB Live Before Lock, and also there's going to be a ton of baseball content coming up for the next few weeks because that's what's on TV. Those are sporting events. There's no basketball to cover. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also like the video. There's going to be a lot of baseball content coming, and even if you guys are new to MLB DFS, feel free to reach out to me, ask questions, reach out to Eric also, and we're always available.
Greg is one of the best. I'm one of the okay ones. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to Monkey Knife Fight. Don't forget, use that promo code AWESEMO. Get that $100 free first match deposit bonus into your account. He's Greg Ehrenberg. I'm Eric Lindquist. We'll catch you later.